The year 2020 has started under the shadow of the Wuhan coronavirus. I know you are concerned and you have good reason to be. Viruses have been with us forever. We first began to learn about them from 1884. Unlike bacteria, which we can see and attack, the viruses were first found in 1884 when the French microbiologist Charles Chamberlain invented a filter with pores smaller than bacteria. He found solutions passed through the Chamberlain filter can still cause disease. That's how we first met public enemy number one, the virus. Our first look at the virus happened in 1931 when the German engineer Ernst Ruska and Max Knoll used an electron microscope and created the first image. Later that year, American pathologist grew influenza in fertilized chicken eggs. In 1935, we separated the virus into protein and RNA parts. And now over 5,000 species of viruses have been discovered. You may wonder, why should we be so concerned about these tiny viruses? Well, let me give you some of the worst killers in history. Smallpox, 500 million people. The plague, 240 million. Influenza, 50 million. Cholera, 40 million. HIV, 32 million. Did I get your attention now? Bacteria and viruses both can spread like wildfire. In the 14th century, the plague, known as Black Death, eliminated 30 to 60% of Europe's population. And we all know what HIV has done to society today. Health professionals I have spoken to have said that even though they are on the first line of defense battling these diseases, they have to admit that they don't know much about them. Often people will ask if the virus are living things. The health professionals have to say that they are not, because they are complicated assemblies of molecules, including proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, and carbohydrates. But on their own, they can do nothing until they enter a living cell. Without cells, viruses could not be able to multiply. Therefore, viruses are not living things. So, yes, they are like zombies. The only way they can survive is to get inside you and turn your healthy cells into their host. So, where do they come from? A popular regressive theory said they may once have been small cells that parasitized larger cells. Over time, genes not required by their parasitism were lost. Or they can come from plasmids, pieces of DNA that can move between cells. This theory thinks viruses are evolved from bits of DNA or RNA that escaped from the genes of a larger organism or from bacteria. And some believe viruses were created the same time lives were created. It's called coevolution theory. It kind of makes sense if you believe God created all life forms. But remember, a virus is not considered life. But none of these theories completely holds water. The regressive hypothesis does not explain why even the smallest of cellular parasites do not resemble viruses in any way. The escape hypothesis does not explain the structure of virus particles. The coevolution, well, just contradicts the definition of viruses. So the only thing we know about virus is that we don't know much about them. Although we can't really call viruses living things, they do behave like most living things. They want to grow and expand. We know how some of the known viruses spread. Influenzas are spread through the air by droplets of moisture when people cough or sneeze. Viruses such as norovirus are transmitted by the fecal-oral route, which involves the contamination of hands, food, and water. Rotavirus is often spread by direct contact with infected children. The human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, is transmitted by bodily fluids transferred during sex. Others, such as the dengue virus, are spread by blood-sucking insects. Now, if you somehow get in contact with a virus, as you can see in this picture, we call it virion. Genes made from DNA or RNA and surrounded by a capsid, which is made by protein molecules. They are usually 20 to 300 nanometers, much smaller than the average bacteria size of 1,000 nanometers. In 2003, bacteria-sized megaviruses were found. These viruses can be 1,000 times larger than influenza viruses. But size does not mean anything. Even a small virus can cause horrible harm. A virus starts its attack by first attaching to a host cell. Then it releases its genetic instructions to the host cell. Then the injected genetic material recruits the host cell's enzymes. Then the enzymes make parts for more new virus particles. It's called duplication. Then the virus assembles the parts into new viruses. And the new virus breaks free from the host cell and starts the process again. What do you think would happen to the host cells after this raid? There's a fancy name for it: cytopathic effects. Most host cells die through cell lysis, which means bursting. Our cell's surface membrane changes are apoptosis, the other name for cell suicide. How do these viruses find their host cells? Well, like a thief, they know which pocket to pick. Like human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, infects only human T cells because its surface protein, GP120, can only react with CD4. Virus damages cells are like houses without foundations. They can no longer stand on their own. Like papillomavirus are an established cause of cancer. When a cell's DNA is damaged by a virus, and if the cell cannot repair itself, this often triggers apoptosis. It is called suicide because it leads to destruction of the damaged DNA by the cell itself. Because a virus wants to multiply and survive, so they would not want a short-lived host. Like HIV can stay in someone's body for 10 years without symptoms. However, some other viruses can kill their host in a very short time. Because a virus has only a few sets of RNA, compared with normal cells' hundreds of sets of DNA, it can mutate quickly. Some mutations lead to resistance to antiviral drugs. This can be a result of recombination or reassortment. When this happens with influenza viruses, pandemics might result. Scientists have been puzzled by this fact, why some viruses kill its host so quickly, It's pretty much killing its chance to survive. Some have thought it may be because it is a new mutation that has not yet perfected its attack plans. Like the Marburg virus found in 1967. It kills 90% of infected patients. Like the 228 perished during 1998 to 2000 Congo epidemic and 2004 to 2005 Angola outbreak, which killed 227 of 252 infected. The Marburg virus can be found in the fruit bat, but causes little harm to host bats. However, when it jumps from bat to human, it became the most deadly virus on Earth. Then in November 2002, a farmer in China became the first SARS patient. China reported to the World Health Organization the outbreak on February 10, 2003, when they had 305 cases. Because of the lack of knowledge and delay in reporting this epidemic, outbreaks burst out in Hong Kong. In March 2003, then Thailand followed. Before WHO's global action, the disease spread to Vietnam, then Singapore, and then Canada. With a strict quarantine taken in many infected areas, the fast-spreading SARS was slowly put under control. But that was after 8,098 people infected in 17 countries and 774 deaths reported. What was not reported as casualties was Beijing's mayor and China's health minister. They both lost their jobs for failing to handle the matter properly. And the Wuhan coronavirus is a new kind of virus we have never dealt with. It overtook China's fourth largest city in less than a month, and took the unthinkable measure on January the 23rd, 2020, of quarantining Wuhan and nearby cities. All of a sudden, a 10 million metropolitan area became a ghost town. Is it enough? If you ask me, nothing is ever enough. When it comes to your health and mine, the government, the doctors can only do so much. You need to avoid public places to reduce the chance of being infected. You need to wash your hands, use sanitizer if you can't wash with water. Some people have asked me if I feel the quarantine should have started sooner. My answer is, I don't know. I don't have the information that was presented to the decision maker. But I know it is a difficult decision because we are dealing with an unknown virus. Can we defeat the virus? I am sure we can, because we have won many challenges before this, and I am confident we can do it again. Of course, we must work with each other, not against each other. This is Ken Peters. Thank you for watching.